Welcome, everybody, to PinstripeChronicles podcast, your best source for entertainment takes on the Yankees. I am Tats. I am here with Rob. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing this morning. It's just I've been at my job pretty much every day since last Monday. So Tats needs a break.
This man already.
But the other one, where we did have a break was the Yankees did have the off day yesterday before getting into the series with Tampa, like we talked about yesterday. And I think this is going to be a very key series and a very key week for the Yankees. Like we said, they have the 8-game lead in the division. We got Tampa, then we have Toronto, then we get Tampa. It's going to be a long stretch for these guys, and if any team this season is primed for a tough week like this, it is the Yankees. The only other team that I think would be able to weather the storm would be the other New York team, would be the Mets. But the way that this team has been, it's one of those, you don't know what you're going to get, but the outcomes have been positively surprising. So we were able to split, in the beginning of the year when we really weren't sure what the identity was for this team, we split the series with Toronto. The last time we met up with the Rays, we split the series with them. It felt a little bittersweet because we won the first two and then lost the second two. So we didn't have that. It didn't end on a positive note. So that's kind of sticking in some fans' minds that the Rays, kind of showed that they were the Rays those last two games, but they really haven't been the Rays this year. They're putting the numbers up. They're 6-4 in their last 10. Against teams like Chicago, the White Sox, the Cardinals, and the Twins, and none of them were easy teams to navigate through. We just saw what we went through with the Twins. So when you're going into a series like this, besides the obvious of timely hitting, good pitching, what do you think would be the biggest key for the Yankees to continue to roll forward against the AL East?
Don't let that one guy beat you, because it seems like whenever we play the Rays and Toronto, but keeping it with Tampa, there always seems to be that one guy every series that just we can't get out, like whether it's Choi against Cole or Arozarena will have a big day, or Kiermaier. When they had him, Austin Meadows would kill us. I'm glad he's gone. But they always seem to have one player kind of dominate offensively throughout a series. It's basically just keep making sure that doesn't happen. We know this is going to be a difficult series. Even if we take 2 out of 3, they're not going to be easy games. That's the case every single time with Tampa. They always fight. And the fact that they haven't, like you said, even really been the Rays yet, they're a good team, but they haven't really reach their full potential yet of what they should be doing this year. So that's scary. And the Yankees have to prevent that from happening this week because they play them 6 times. So make sure you don't get beat by one guy. Luckily, we have a really good pitching matchup every single game. We have, I would say, our best 3, and it starts with the ace tonight. So we need him to bounce back, forget what happened in Minnesota, and just go out there and deal and get us a W.
Yeah, I think that is the key. As much as it's the good pitching, it's all going to go with how does this series start. And with Cole on the mound, Cole needs to, like you said, just forget your last start. Just go out and just prove everybody wrong. And just show a little more. I think he needs to just be a little more fired up. But not so amped up where he doesn't have the control on his pitches. We see that a lot early in the season with a lot of different pitchers. They get so amped up beginning of the year, first series, first game, and then it's like, where'd you go? We need Cole to show up and be Cole. The offense needs to, especially with pitches, we have, in order, we have Kluber tonight, we have McClanahan tomorrow, and Rasmussen on after that. So what they need to do, they just need to be patient. Don't sit on your pitch. get into that bullpen, wear them down. And I think that's going to be a big key. That's going to be the key. Patient at bats. Don't try to, put it away. Don't try to put it away early by swinging for the fences. Just play your game, because that's when the Yankees really seem to rear their dominant head, is when they're just staying within their game plan. They're not, and being able to adjust on the fly inning by inning if they need to, but just keep a level swing, put the bat on the ball, take your walks if they're not, if they're having trouble, with their command. Don't give them any outs. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, and Kluber beat us last time. We could not hit him.
No.
So don't let that happen again. If we have the same lineup as we had against the Cubs, Judge might be leading off. That might be something that they try more often now. So we'll see if that's the case. If he has a good at bat, Judge can set the tone early. If he has a long at bat like he usually does, even if he gets out, he's a guy that's going to see 6-7 pitches almost every time he goes up there. So just set the tone. Like, make sure if Kluber's shaky early, you try to attack him early on, but you can't let him get into a rhythm, because he showed last time when he does that, we can't hit him. I would think Carpenter has to play this series, like pretty much every game, because he's swinging a red hot bat, and he had a pretty good, I think he had 2 home runs against Tampa when that was his debut with us. He hit a home run. So he was pretty productive in the Trop. So I would expect to see him as well. But yeah, just don't let these guys for Tampa get into any sort of rhythm on the mound, because we've already seen this year the Yankees, as good as the offense has been, when they're bad, they look like they can't hit the ball at all. And they look like they haven't played baseball before. And then when they're good, you're like, why can't we get this every day? I'm not expecting to blow out the Rays. Again, I think it's going to be a very close 3-game set. But I don't want us to get completely shut down by their pitching, because we've seen that in the past. But this year has been a different story, where you don't feel like that's going to happen. They're going to battle. And we've already seen this year that they're never out of it. So if it's close and we're still losing late, they're never out of the game. So just keep it within arm's reach, and maybe we'll pull out another Trevino walk-off hit or something.
Yeah. No, that would be great. But no, they got to keep the games tight. It really, and I think this is going to be a very low-scoring series. It's just going to come down to the Yankees having home field advantage, and that bottom of the ninth, or the top of the ninth inning is going to be the key to these games. And when you have a guy in the bullpen like Holmes, you have a lot more confidence in those late innings and in the ninth than you do with Chapman. So, not that, Cole hasn't been completely perfect, but he's been as close to perfect as a closer as we've seen in quite some time. So it's really going to come down. It really just comes down to the pitchers not letting innings get away from them. If you put up an early run in an inning, just let it go. It's over with. They got you. But, don't let them beat you. Don't let yourself beat yourself. Just stay in your, it's all about staying in your game plan. If you see that the umpire, and also understanding the umpires behind the plate and where their zones are. If they're going to give you the outer corners, stay with the outer corners and try to, nibble that way. That's also another factor that, with the scouting reports. Because now that, like I said last week, the Yes Network, they put the graphic up of what kind of umpire it is. Is he pitcher friendly, neutral? They need to use those graphics in their game plan, which I'm sure they do, but that's going to be another factor as well.
Yeah, for sure. Now we have Stanton. We didn't have him last series.
Yeah.
And we didn't have Donaldson either. So that's definitely going to be key, because we've already seen now with those guys back, our lineup is a lot more difficult to navigate, where we don't seem to have like 3 automatic outs. So
Yeah.
it's already made Gallo more comfortable because he's hitting more over his last like 10 games. His average is up, his on base is up. Even Aaron Hicks to a degree. The on base at least has been skyrocketing for Aaron Hicks, so he's seeing the ball better. And just having that protection, even if it's ahead of you in the lineup, it gives you more pitches to see because these guys aren't going to want to face Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, Donaldson, Torres in the same order, and then have with LeMahieu at the top or whether he's batting fifth. So it's going to give Hicks a chance to see better pitches, hopefully without guys on base. And then Gallo at the bottom of the order has been doing a solid job. So it's just a matter of how Boone constructs the lineup. I think you have to see Carpenter at least twice in this series just because every time he makes contact, it's going over the wall. So you kind of need that, especially against the Rays because runs might be scarce. But yeah, just having those guys back in the lineup healthy, it's giving everybody else more chances to see better pitches, and the offense is rolling as of late. So if there's a time that we can take a series against the Rays, it's now, and we've pretty much got a full team in terms of health. We're still missing some guys in the bullpen, but offensively, we're healthy. And it's time, if we're going to win this division, I know we got the big lead now, but it's still only June. A lot can happen. If we're going to win this division this week, these 9 straight games we have coming up against Tampa, Toronto, Tampa again, Hell Week, they got to dominate. And I'm not saying they have to win every single game, but if they come away with like 6 out of the next 9, that you have to do that if you want to continue to prove, hey, we can beat the good teams, and we got to keep beating the teams in our division. So this is it right here. This is one of those weeks where that could define our season. It's already been a great year, but this is a kind of like a season-defining week we have coming up. And then we can't even forget what happens after that when we got Houston for 4 games. So this is the start of what's going to be a really difficult stretch. And the Yankees have to find a way, whatever it takes to win as many games as possible. There's an obvious statement, but this is it right here. Defining week of the season could be right here in early June, mid-June. So let's see what they're made of. I'm but for the first time, though, I'm excited for a week like this, because last year I'd be like, shit.
It was just going to bury us even further.
Yeah, I was like, oh, man, if we can win 5, I'll be happy. But this year I'm like, let's go get, what will we playing another in 13 games in this stretch? Let's go get 7. I think we can take 7 or maybe 8, and I'd feel okay with that because if you come away with the winning record against this slate of games, it's a success. So, but it starts tonight. We can't overlook Tampa Bay at all. But because we have our 3 best pitchers, you got to find a way to win at least 2. Win the series. That's all we've been doing all year. Win the series and keep rolling, and that's what's keeping the Yankees atop the standings.
Yeah, no, I don't think 6 out of 9 is, out of reach, or unrealistic. Not with the way that this team has played this year. We've seen them go on runs when we didn't expect it. We've seen them, battle through games that where last year, it was all right. They're not, all right. Now they're focusing on tomorrow. They don't focus on tomorrow until tomorrow this year. They're staying in the game, and I think it was just that one game against, I think it was the Twins, that 8-1 game that they lost. That was the only game that really felt like the game just was out of reach. Every other game, even when they're behind in the score, you still have that feeling. They're still really putting in a solid, valiant effort. They're not giving up on at bats. They're really just trying to grind it out. And we saw that. Was it that next game there was that comeback? And then they just kind of took over, and I put them right back on track. So you're seeing just a very different team this year. I think this is that philosophy that there's a new philosophy that we've been screaming for. And even though there's a lot of still some of the key players from last year, there's enough new role players and voices in that lineup in the locker room to kind of change the atmosphere. And it's always obviously you look at the standings, it's in a positive light. So it's going to be a very exhausting week, especially for not just for them, but for the fans as well.
Yeah, think about us for a second. We're the biggest victims here. But no, you're right. Like this could either be one of the best weeks or one of the worst weeks for us, and it wouldn't surprise me if, God forbid, we lose 5 out of 9, because Toronto is still a really good team and Tampa is still a really good team. They're no pushovers. I know that we have such a big lead against them, but they are not pushovers. And if, like I said already, if the Yankees want to continue to prove that they are the team to beat, they are the team to be, they're not the ones to mess with, that you don't want to see the Yankees this year. If they come out, forget about Houston for a second because they're at the end of this 13-game stretch. But if they come out of these 9 games with 6 wins, you're like, who is stopping them in this division?
Yeah.
The first goal is to win the East. You can't think about winning the World Series if you have to get to October first. But you want to win your division because you want to avoid that 1-game wild card or whatever it is they're doing now, the 3-game series. Yeah. You want that bye. You want that bye to get you into the best of 5 series. So better way to do that is to separate yourself as far as you possibly can from the rest of the pack in the first half of the year, because you can't win a division in the first few months, but you can certainly help yourself lose one.
Yep.
Yankees haven't done that yet. They did it last year. And they can separate themselves a lot in these next 9 games. And they can prove to themselves, to some fans that are still doubting, and to the rest of baseball that the Yankees are for real. And if they can, again, I'm not asking for a full 9 games. Of course, in the back of my mind, I was like, no, win all 9. Screw it. Let's do it. But I know it's very unrealistic to ask for that. So if you can just come out with a winning record, so 5 or 6 wins, maybe even more, but don't get beat down. This is the 9-game stretch. This is the stretch of games where you have to prove your dominance over the rest of the American League East. And then you can ride, hopefully, that momentum into the Houston series and try to once again prove to baseball, we're here and we're not going anywhere. So this is it right here. These 13 starts tonight. Let's go get it.
Yeah, I think another factor, and I actually, I'll also say that I think that these 9 games we're going to be looking back at in September and say, this is that stretch that made us or broke us. We're going to look back and say, man, we shouldn't have let them back in the race, or thank goodness we put them behind, a little further deep. That week, because it'd be a little tough now. But the other key factor for the Yankees in a positive way is the manager this year. Boone has really been focused more than we've ever seen him. He actually looks like a manager. He's been very smart with the lineups. He's making some adjustments, but he's not, throwing all the names, picking them out of the hat like he did last year, where it seemed like every, even with the same players day in, day out, they were all in a different order. He's been very consistent with the lineups this year, knowing when, rotating the extra player that we thought was just going to be a nightmare. He's been, I have to say, he's been very good with that, making sure the guys stay rested. And that also telling them, you may not be in the starting lineup, but don't be surprised if I throw you in there at the end of the game. And they're ready for it. So he has these players prepped just perfectly. So I think, Kevin Cash is going to have a hard time out managing Aaron Boone with this way this season is going.
Who would have thought you would say?
I know. It's actually
it's crazy, right? We've spent so much time on this show tearing Aaron Boone apart. But one thing that we always do on here is when we're wrong, about something, we will admit it. Now, don't get me wrong. Aaron Boone deserved a lot of criticism for his first 4 years here. But we can admit this year, and a lot of fans are doing the same thing. I know Simonetti brought it up on one of his streams recently, that this year, the criticisms, you can't point any fingers at Aaron Boone and say, that's why we lost the game. You're the reason why we lost. There were so many times last year and the years before where we've lost games and it's like, well, he shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have put in that guy, pulled this guy. Why didn't he start this guy? You can't really point the finger at all right now to Aaron Boone. He was dealt a pretty difficult hand with the rotation of the infield, 5 guys for 4 spots. And to his credit, he's stuck with certain guys that have really been struggling, and it's starting to pay off now. He said, I'm not going to, he's not starting Aaron Hicks every game, but he kept playing him more so than he probably deserved to, and he started to break out. Same thing with Joey Gallo. He's trusting his guys without coddling them. Like there's a difference between be like, no, we know he's going to break out. He's close. He's on the cusp. And then he's just like, look, you're going to go out there and play. You got to prove it to me. It's a different atmosphere this year. It's a different Boone. He's kind of had this attitude to him that you're like, hey, there it is. Like he's managing. And it feels like I said it earlier, Pinocchio's becoming a real boy. He's not the puppet anymore.
Yep.
He's not answering the way Brian Cashman would want him to answer. And it feels like they took the strings off him and said, all right, you're here for 4 more years, 3 at least with the option. But I really feel like, and it's something Donald brought up, that must have been part of the negotiations. If you're going to bring me back, I want to be back, but I want to manage. I don't want you guys telling me, because they admitted last year we get the lineup from the analytics department. And
that was the biggest mistake he made last year.
The human element.
Admitting that.
Yeah, the human element. Yeah, he fixes the lineup. But now it just feels like you do what you feel is best. You go out there and manage, and look what the difference it's made. Because even though he's won 100 games twice and before this, he was still managing with like a machine, basically. He was still kind of robotic, everything he would do. He had a really good team. You should win 100 games. Now we're seeing a really good team that had very little expectations going into the season by a lot of people. And Aaron Boone is managing, getting an MVP year, and the coaches around him. And I really think all those coaching changes made such a big difference because everybody but like 2 guys are gone or were gone. I think they kept the bench coach and Harkey, really, right? And then everyone else is basically out.
Everybody else is new.
Yeah, everybody else was replacing. It's really working, and it feels like this is the first time where Boone's managing with his gut instead of what is the computer telling me? What does the analytics say? And he's using both, and you're seeing it pay off. And I got to tip the cap to the skipper, because right now he's managing, and it's really good to see, because he's doing a hell of a job. So I will give him all the credit, and because it's rightfully deserved.
Yeah, no, and I think it really is also the factor of the coaching staff as a whole. The defense is tightened up. The offense, they're putting together better at bats. You see more balls barreled up. The base running errors have been almost non-existent. And that all comes to the pitching staff, and working with Trevino, Higgy, and all the starters and relievers. You're seeing everything just start to click. And I think it really comes down to basics. Put the book away, and let's just go with let's just get back to what got us here in the first place. And that's fundamental baseball.
Yeah. Simplifying it. And that's something that I can't remember, was Jack Curry said it very early in the season, because our offense was struggling very early on, even though we were still like 6-4 or whatever, 7-6. We weren't scoring a lot of runs. And he's like, you're seeing a lot of guys just trying to do too much. Like Aaron Hicks, even though he was hitting, he was still trying to hit it 5,000 feet. Donaldson was pressing. Torres was pressing. The only guys that were really successful at that time were Rizzo, and Judge hadn't even gotten the home runs going yet. Stanton was playing well. And it was only like 2 or 3 guys that were really hitting. And he's like, simplify it, man. Just go back to the basics. Like, see ball, hit ball. Like, don't try to do too much. And since at that point, it's basically been one of it's been the best team in baseball. So, I mean, if that's what it took to get this team right, because the talent was always there. So when you saw these last couple of years, why aren't they winning more games? Why is Torres playing the way he is? Why are they not getting production out of this guy? Why are they hitting the ball on the ground so much for double plays? And how are they making these blunders on the base paths and all that? Everything changed like in a blink. And a lot of people, we all criticized it. You know, we were like, what is this?
Tore it apart.
Yeah. What is this offseason? Even though we knew the improvement was there, it was very slight, but there was an improvement. We didn't expect it to be this much of an improvement. So we're shying away from the big week we have ahead, but that does tie into it. We've been this good, and now this is the time to prove it, that we're not a fluke that's played Baltimore so many times. We played some teams, and we've taken care of those bleh teams. But if we can take care of business against these guys, against Toronto and Houston,
they have no choice but to acknowledge that the Yankees are back.
Yeah, acknowledge the tribal chief of WWE, of the Major League Baseball. I mean, yeah, this is it, man. I keep saying it, but let's go get it. I can't wait for it, man. I cannot wait for it. Baseball, man, I love it. I love it and I hate it. It's a love-hate relationship with this godforsaken team. But right now, we gotta love it. If we lose tonight,
like we said yesterday, there's really nothing to critique. You know, you could nitpick, but there's nothing to be overly critical about. So it's just been a fun ride, and this week is gonna really, believe me, I might grow hair just to pull it out again. So it's because it's baseball and you never know. But as long as the Yankees win each series, I think that's really all we ask for. And just stay competitive. Don't lay down. There's 9 innings in a game. There's 27 outs. Use all of them. And that's all. It's like we said, back to basics. So it's going to be interesting, and we will be back tomorrow to break down tonight's game with Cole and Kluber, which should be really a very fun matchup, hopefully. But it's going to be. Hopefully, we have the same positive attitude tomorrow. With Cole on the mound, you don't know what you're going to get, and that's something I never thought I would say. But it's the offense has been holding their own against some of these pitches and matchups. So it should be the team's going to be just fine. I think tonight's going to be a win. I think it's going to be a tight win. It's going to be like 4-3, 5-4. It's going to be a one-run game. I don't see it really, going. I don't think the offense is going to have on either side is going to have that big of a day. I think it's going to be about pitching tonight. So that's my game prediction. But we will break that all down tomorrow. Hopefully Donald will be back. He's on hiatus. He's MIA. But just remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your predictions about the week ahead. And check us out on sportnarium.com/player. Northeast Streaming Sports on Roku. Wear those pinstripes your pride and play hard.